Welcome to RE/MAX Boulder's video podcast. Today we have Gina Weinberger. She's an attorney here at RE/MAX Boulder. She specializes in real estate and estate planning. Gina, thanks for being here today.
Hi, Duane. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Today we're going to talk about evictions. Now in Boulder, Colorado, there's about 50% of the rental of the properties in Boulder are rental properties. So we have a lot of investors in real estate here in Boulder, and so one of the things that does come up is when the tenants don't pay or break a term of the lease, they have to be evicted. So Gina, why don't we start out with what is an eviction?
What is an eviction? Well, an eviction, simply put, is a termination of a tenancy. So when you're trying to end someone's tenancy.
Okay.
That's it.
And you got to get them out, so to
Yes.
speak. Okay.
Yeah.
And then why would somebody be evicted? What's the usual
There are
reason?
a number of reasons why you would want to evict someone. The statute outlines 11 reasons for cause, meaning there's an actual reason. And then, of course, there's always a no-cause eviction, so it's just the end of someone's lease, and you want them out,
And they haven't left.
and they haven't left.
Okay.
So you have to actually get them to leave. Now, most evictions are for the failure to pay rent.
Okay.
You as a landlord probably know that that's probably the most common. So that's what I'm going to really try and focus our conversation on, because this will differ a little bit for various reasons, but it's usually because someone's not paying.
Okay. And when somebody's not paying, what is the landlord's first step?
So the first step is posting that 3-day demand, and that's where you just give them a heads up. You post it, you say, look, you haven't paid, you can either leave or pay, and you have 3 days to do it before I can file for an eviction. It's sort of like a grace period.
Okay. And can the owner post that notice themselves?
Yes, and the owner really probably should post that notice themselves, because that's, if they come into compliance within that 3 day, there's nothing to do. Everyone just goes on with the relationship. So you don't want to take any additional steps until those 3 days have passed.
I remember from the old days too, didn't you have to tape it to the door? Is there any rules about like who you have to give it to, whether they're there or not, or where do you put it?
Yes,
so to speak.
Good question. This is really significant. So the best case is you track down the tenant and you physically serve them. Okay, that's the best case. Or if someone in the family is 15 or older, you can also give that 3-day notice to them as well. Okay. And then if you can't track them down to give them the 3-day demand, then you can post it conspicuously on the house. And I always recommend you take a photo if you do that, just so it's
Got a
very
permanent
obvious
record
that
of
you
it.
did post it.
And when you say track them down, does that include maybe serving them at work, or is that normally done?
So that comes later. That comes when you actually have to file for an eviction. So for the 3-day notice, the standards are a little less strict. You just have to post it conspicuously. But of course, if they're there.
Okay. And so now you've placed this notice and the tenant, no response. What's next? What happens then?
Then you file for an eviction.
Okay.
After the 3-day period has passed, that's when you get your paperwork together. This is the point where you can hire an attorney if you want to hire an attorney to help you. And then you go into that service process. So then you have to serve them 7 days before you want to be in court. You should really hire a process server or the sheriff to do this. And you really want to try and serve them in person, because if you serve them in person, then you can get your damages. In addition to getting the premises back, you can actually get your damages, including the cost of the eviction.
So it's really important to serve them in person then.
It is. And sometimes maybe they just skip town or you can't track them down. Then you can post and mail. And then you can still go through with the eviction, but a court will not award damages if you can't personally serve them.
Okay.
So that's a really big distinction, and it might be worth waiting a week and trying to track them down.
Okay, and you said about setting a court date. If I remember right, in Boulder County, eviction court was on Friday. Great way to spend a Friday afternoon or a day.
Yeah.
Is that still true?
That's still true.
Okay, and as far as the time process, how full is that docket typically on if it's only on Fridays, is it like if you have to evict somebody, is it 3 Fridays out, or they usually have enough capacity to make it next Friday?
It's usually the next Friday, as long as you have that time to serve them with 7 days. You can almost always get on the docket that Friday. In fact, I know a lot of practitioners just assume that they can get in and they fill it in, and so that's been the case.
Gotcha. Okay. And so you get a judgment or a ruling to the tenant's out. What happens then?
So just make sure we're all on the same page.
Okay.
So then you actually have to go to that court hearing.
Okay, sorry, I
It's
stepped
called
ahead a
return
notch
date.
there. Okay.
Yeah. So you'll have that return date, and if the tenants have answered, or if they appear and answer then, the judge may set a hearing date for later. More often than not, the tenants aren't there, they ignore it, and the judge can give you a default judgment.
Okay.
Okay, and then you'll get your writ, which the sheriff will execute 48 hours after the judge ordered the writ of restitution.
And the writ is another posting on the property?
No, that's actually what's giving you, well, you'd give it to the sheriff, and the sheriff would execute that, and that's what's used to get them out of the unit.
Okay.
So the sheriff takes that and goes to the premises and forcefully removes tenants if they're still there.
Okay.
We always hope that they're not there and that they've
Right.
already left, but that's what that process is.
Okay, and it's my understanding sheriff doesn't actually haul the stuff out. The landlord's got to hire somebody
Yeah.
to haul the stuff out, and then the sheriff is there to make sure nobody shoots at each other while the process of moving the tenant stuff is out.
That's
correct?
right, that's
Okay.
right. And if the sheriff, and if you show up and there's a lot of stuff there and no movers, the sheriff might refuse to do it.
Right.
And so you really need to make sure, try and get a sense if you're able of whether they've moved out, if there's still stuff there, and plan accordingly, because that sheriff isn't going to wait around all day
Right.
for you to move your stuff.
And what about just the length of time, like once you get the writ, the opportunity to get the tenant out, what is the usual lag time, if you will, for the sheriff to be able to come monitor that? Because I remember stories of like 3-4 weeks they were out. Is that still the same, or does it happen a little quicker?
So it happens a little quicker. There's a mandatory 48-hour sort of window period.
Okay.
I would imagine a week or so. It's not as long as what you're recalling from back
Okay.
in the day. But yeah, you can't expect it to be done on the 49th hour.
Right, okay.
By no means, yeah. And I would also imagine, depending on the time of year, we have a very cyclical rental period. If you're trying to get an eviction done in September, maybe a month after that typical move-out period, you might have a harder time.
Okay, and so from the landlord's point of view, total cost, well, attorney's fees should be a certain range. Moving stuff out could be a wide range depending on how much stuff there is. And is there a fee that the sheriff charges for going out there?
There is a fee, and there's also a fee that they were charged to serve an individual.
Okay.
Although I can't recall what that is. If you're able to personally serve the tenant, though, those fees could be recovered
Okay.
at a later date if you're able to get anything out of the tenant. So those fees can be recovered. Although I'll be honest, some of the biggest cost associated with an eviction is the lost rent.
Sure. 'Cause of
Especially
the
out
time.
here.
Right.
Yeah, so that's one thing I always caution my clients. If you have a tenant not paying, get on that as soon as possible, because you waste money just by waiting.
Right. Okay. Anything else relative to eviction we wanted to cover?
I think we covered a lot, just scratched the surface. So hopefully our viewers have enough to know
Okay.
a little bit of what to expect if they have to.
All right. And why don't you give your contact information if one of the viewers needs some help with an eviction?
Sure. Again, Gina Weinberger, Weinberger Law, LLC. Phone number 720-588-9830. And you can email me at gina@ginaweinbergerlaw.com.
All right, Gina, thanks for being here today. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Good time.
Duane Duggan, Remax Boulder Video Podcast, signing off.